I think we can have a better future.
As you said, it's doing much better than comparable nations through the pandemic. But when you look at the budget, our net debt is going to peak at about a third of national income. You've got deficits out as far as the eye can see. If you win PM, will you turn your attention to budget repair? Because these are wonderful initiatives that we're talking about here, but will your focus turn to budget repair if you win? And Mr Albanese, your response to that as well. This obviously has to be a priority at some point.
Okay. I'm happy to go. In the last 12 months, the budget has turned around by over $100 billion. That is the single biggest turnaround in a budget in 70 years. And the reason for that is we've got people into work, off welfare and into work. That is the major way you turn a budget around, as well as making sure you control your expenditure. Our debt has risen because it had to, because we all know when we went into the pandemic, we were facing the biggest economic crisis we had seen since the Great Depression. To give you an example, the economic recession that we went through because of the pandemic was 30 times worse than what occurred during the global financial crisis. 30 times worse. And we've come through with employment outcomes compared to the global financial crisis, happened over a decade ago, 50% better. We have 400,000, almost 400,000 more people in work today than before the pandemic. Now, that didn't happen by accident. When we stared into the abyss of the global pandemic, not knowing how many people would die, how many businesses would be ruined, the Treasurer and I, Josh Frydenberg and I, got together with the then Finance Minister, Matthias Cormann, and we came up with JobKeeper. It saved 700,000 jobs, and I believe many, many lives, because Australians were thinking they were going to work that day on the day we announced it, and it would be their last day in work, that apprentices would go, and that the Australian economy would be ruined. So yes, we lent in, we saved the Australian economy, we kept Australians in work, and as a result, now we have an economic plan which means we can grow our economy into the future. Our debt, even still, is about a third of the debt in the United States and United Kingdom and France and nations like that, because of the good management we'd had prior to the pandemic.
Mr Albanese, have you got a plan for budget repair if you win?
Well, the truth is that whoever was in government during the pandemic would have had to have had an economic stimulus plan. We called for wage subsidies before the government adopted them. We were calling for it, the union movement was calling for it, small business was calling for it, and indeed the government said that wage subsidies were a dangerous idea.
That's not true.
Were a dangerous idea. We have no problem with the economic stimulus in terms of the need for one. What we have a problem with is the waste. There was too much waste there, and this has been a wasteful government. They changed the national broadband network model from fibre-based. They said that it would cost $29 billion, and it's cost almost double that for an inferior model, and now they're having to go back and fix it. They spent $1 billion of your money on taxpayer advertising promoting themselves. And before the pandemic had hit, it's important to remember that they had already doubled the debt before the pandemic had hit.
So beyond the waste, is there anything you would do different?
Well, what we need to do is that we have a plan to grow the economy. We have a plan to grow back stronger through our National Reconstruction Fund of $15 billion that will support new industries, that will support old industries being transformed. We have a plan to make sure Australians can fill the jobs through our TAFE plan, fee-free TAFE in areas of skills shortage, our additional university places. We need to have a plan to grow the economy, and what clean energy represents is just that.
Okay,
it's an opportunity.